Former Premier Nawaz Sharif, his daughter Maryam Nawaz and son-in-law Captain Retired Mohammad Safdar released from Adiala jail after Islamabad High Court decision. Islamabad High Court suspends sentences of Nawaz Sharif, daughter Maryam Nawaz and son-in-law Captain Retired Safdar in Evenfield corruption and orders their release. Sentences to remain suspended until final adjudication of appeals filed by petitioners. National Accountability Bureau to file appeal in Supreme Court against Islamabad High Court's decision to suspend sentences of Sharifs in the Evenfield corruption reference. NAB meeting chaired by the chairman Justice Retired Javed Iqbal discussed IHC decision. $2,700 properties owned by overseas Pakistanis traced, FIA tells SC DG FIA Bashir Memon apprises Supreme Court 2,700 properties owned by overseas Pakistanis. Chief Justice instructs Attorney General to produce a report regarding Pakistanis who own 15 to 20 assets in foreign countries. State Bank of Pakistan Governor Tariq Bajwa informs court 550 Pakistanis own properties abroad. Supreme Court orders removal of the former Finance Minister Ishaq Dar as chairman of the Board of Governors of the University of Health Sciences, Lahore. Court directs Punjab government to appoint new chairman of Board of Governors of University within 3 days. Two people hospitalized after car hit pedestrian near a Muslim community centre in northwest London. People in car made Islamophobic comments before leaving scene in Borough of Brent overnight. Police said London Muslim Centre incident not a terror-related incident. Woman dies after caravan blown off a cliff in Ireland as Storm Ali batters parts of British Isles. More than 80,000 homes are without power in Ireland and strong gusts disrupting travel. Met Office says winds of 91 miles per hour have been recorded in Kildare County Down. Irish Foreign Minister Simon Coveney urges Britain to speed up Brexit talks. Coveney says Ireland wants EU to be in position to make practical decisions in October. European Union's chief negotiator Michael Barnier says to improve Irish Brexit border proposal to United Kingdom. Barnier stresses for arrangement be legally operational in case of absence of agreement over Irish issue. India prescribes punishments in bid to stamp out instant Muslim divorce. Supreme Court in August last year outlawed practice that allowed Muslim men to divorce their wives by simply saying word talaq 3 times. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and South Korean President Moon Jae-in agree to turn Korean Peninsula into land of peace without nuclear weapons and nuclear threats. Both leaders say not willing to close main nuclear complex if United States takes unspecified reciprocal action. China says will handle the situation calmly after tit-for-tat tariff moves with United States. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Yang Shuang says China does not interfere in internal affairs of other countries. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. A very warm welcome to 92 News HD. My name is Faik Mahmood. Starting off with the top story today. Former Premier Nawaz Sharif, his daughter Maryam Nawaz and son-in-law, Captain retired Mohammad Safdar, were released from Adiala prison Wednesday evening after the Islamabad High Court suspended their sentences in the Evenfield corruption references. The former Premier, his daughter and son-in-law were taken to Noor Khan Air Base amid stringent security from where they left for Lahore via a special plane. Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz President Shehbaz Sharif had arrived at Adiala prison to take the former Premier with him. A large number of party workers also accompanied the PMLN Supremo to the airbase. Jubilant workers have been chanting slogans and showering the ex-Premier's vehicle with rose petals. The Islamabad High Court on Wednesday suspended sentences of former Premier Nawaz Sharif, his daughter Maryam Nawaz and her husband Captain Mohammad Safdar retired in the Evenfield Properties case and ordered their release. The two-judge bench directed the appellant to deposit Rs 500,000 bail bonds each.
An Islamabad High Court division bench has suspended the sentence of former Premier Nawaz Sharif, Maryam Nawaz and Captain Safdar retired in the Evenfield case and ordered their release against 500,000 bail bonds each. Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz leaders Asif Kermani, Chaudhry Tanveer and Tariq Fazal Chaudhry furnished the bonds. The bench comprising Justice Atar Minullah and Justice Miagul Hassan Aurangzeb was hearing the application for suspension of the sentences in the appeal against the Accountability Court verdict. Justice Minullah read the order suspending the sentence handed out by Accountability Court Judge Muhammad Bashir on July the 6th. Earlier, the Council for National Accountability Bureau advocates Akram Qureshi and Barwana concluded their arguments opposing the application. A 10-minute rejoinder from the Council for petitioners followed. The ruling was then reserved for about an hour. Nawaz, Maryam and Safdar were sentenced to imprisonment for 11 years, 8 years and 1 year respectively.
The National Accountability Bureau will file an appeal in the Supreme Court against the Islamabad High Court's decision to suspend the sentences of the Sharifs in the Evenfield corruption reference. NAB officials said the appeal will be filed once detailed judgment is available.
The National Accountability Bureau held an urgent meeting following the Islamabad High Court's decision to suspend the sentences of the Sharif in the Evenfield corruption reference. The meeting was chaired by the anti-graft body's chairman, Justice Retired Javed Iqbal, which was also attended by Deputy Chairman, Prosecutor General and senior officials. The participants were briefed on the IHC decision. During the meeting, it was decided that an appeal would be filed as soon as the High Court's order was received. The sentences will remain suspended until the final adjudication of the appeals filed by the petitioners. An Accountability Court 1 of Islamabad had announced the verdict of Evenfield references against Sharif family. Nawaz, Maryam and Captain Safdar retired were sentenced to 11 years, 8 years and 1 year respectively in prison in the Evenfield properties reference.
The Islamabad High Court suspending the prison sentences in Evenfield Properties case prompted celebrations among Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz supporters.
The Islamabad High Court on Wednesday ordered the release of a jail-ousted Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, his daughter and her husband, suspending the sentence pronounced by an accountability court in July. Many PMLN leaders in Islamabad, Rawalpindi, Lahore, Karachi, Peshawar, Jihlam, Sheikhupura, Okara and Mia Channu celebrated the release of Nawaz Sharif, Maryam and Safdar. Sweets were distributed at several PMLN offices. Respect from Harumul Haram and the passing away of Kulsum Nawaz put a damper on the celebrations. Many party workers said that the former Prime Minister was disqualified and imprisoned to keep him away from elections.
Prime Minister Imran Khan on Wednesday called on Saudi King Salman bin Abdulaziz during his two-day first official visit to the kingdom after assuming office. The Prime Minister is visiting Saudi Arabia on King Salman bin Abdulaziz's invitation. He is also expected to meet Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud on Tuesday. Khan performed Umrah and prayed for Pakistan's prosperity. The doors of Kaaba, Islam's holiest shrine at Mecca Grand Mosque, were opened for Pakistan Premier, who offered Nawafil at the sacred place. Federal Investigation Agency Director General Bashir Memon appraised the Supreme Court on Wednesday that the agency had traced 2,700 properties owned by overseas Pakistanis.
The revelation was made during the hearing of a suo motu notice by the Chief Justice of Pakistan, Justice Saqib Nisar, of assets owned by Pakistani nationals in foreign countries. As a three-member headed by Chief Justice of Pakistan, Mia Saqib Nisar began hearing the case, Attorney General Khalid Javed presented a report in the court. He informed the court that the United Kingdom and Pakistan have launched a partnership which aims to track corruption and restart the bilateral transfer of prisoners. The Chief Justice instructed the Attorney General to produce a report regarding Pakistanis who own 15 to 20 assets in foreign countries. The State Bank of Pakistan Governor Tariq Bajwa then informed the court that 550 Pakistanis own properties abroad. The top judge then observed that he was aware that Pakistanis own properties worth rupees 1,000 billion in Dubai. Out of 550 people who own these properties, we can summon 15 to 20 individuals, but we won't force anyone, he remarked.
Chief of Army Staff General Qamar Javed Bajwa met Chinese President Xi Jinping on Wednesday in Beijing. Xi said China appreciates the support and security assurance Pakistan has provided for the construction of the Belt and Road and the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor.
The Army Chief said Pakistan supports the Belt and Road Initiative. He said Pakistan always places developing relations with China at the top strategic position in its foreign relations. He said Pakistan is willing to enhance strategic coordination, promote pragmatic communication, and improve anti-terrorism cooperation with the Chinese military. She said China and Pakistan, as all-weather strategic cooperation partners, should continue enhanced coordination in regional and global affairs and support each other on issues concerning each other's core interests. She said the militaries of China and Pakistan should deepen communication and cooperation in various areas and at different levels.
More news stories lined up right after a short break. Keep watching 92 News. Welcome back. After the break, 2 people were hospitalized after a car reportedly hit pedestrian near a Muslim community centre in northwest London on Wednesday, in an incident police said was not related to terrorism. There were reports people in the car had made Islamophobic comments before it left the scene in the borough of Brent overnight. Police said this incident is not being treated as terror-related, but the hate crime aspect of the collision is being looked at by the detectives as an aggravating factor. London's Metropolitan Police said in a statement on Wednesday morning, officers were called to the scene just after midnight. The 2 hospitalized people only have minor injuries, the forces said. A woman died after a caravan was blown off at a cliff in the Republic of Ireland as parts of the British Isles were battered by Storm Ali.
The woman in her 50s died after the caravan was swept away in Kellecduff, County Galway at about 7:45 am. More than 80,000 homes are without power in Ireland and Northern Ireland, and strong gusts are disrupting travel. An amber warning, meaning be prepared, is in place in Northern Ireland, Scotland and Northern England. An amber warning means damage to buildings, disruption to road, rail, air and ferry services, and power cuts should be expected. The Met Office said winds of 91 mph have been recorded in Killowen, County Down. However, the strongest winds could yet be felt in central and southern Scotland and northeast England later.
European Council President Donald Tusk said he would call an extra Brexit summit of European Union leaders around mid-November to finalize a deal with Britain.
Tusk told a news conference before chairing a summit of all 28 EU leaders in the Austrian city of Salzburg.
The Brexit negotiations are entering the decisive phase. Various scenarios are still possible today, but I would like to stress that some of Prime Minister May's proposals from Chequers indicate a positive evolution in the UK's approach, as well as a will to minimise the negative effects of Brexit. By this I mean, among other things, the readiness to cooperate closely in the area of security and foreign policy. On other issues, such as the Irish question or the framework for economic cooperation, the UK's proposals will need to be reworked and further negotiated.
Tusk said that went for the UK's readiness to work closely with the EU on security and foreign policy after Brexit, but stressed that Chequers' proposal from Premier Theresa May for the future Irish border and economic cooperation between the EU and Britain will need to rework and further negotiate it.
Today there is perhaps more hope, but there is surely less and less time. Therefore, every day that is left, we must use for talks. I would like to finalise them still this autumn. This is why at tomorrow's meeting of the 27, I will propose calling an additional summit around the mid of November.
Tusk said he would propose that the EU leaders hold another extra summit on Brexit around mid-November.
The British government must intensify its engagement with the European Union negotiators to find a legally watertight solution for the Irish border so that EU leaders can move toward a Brexit deal next month, Irish Foreign Minister Simon Coveney said on Tuesday.
Coveney made the comments after meeting EU Brexit negotiator Michael Barnier in Brussels, adding that Ireland wants the EU to be in a position to make practical decisions in October.
Yeah, well, I mean, just a couple of very clear messages from today. First of all, it was a very good meeting with Michel Barnier and his team again. The solidarity on the EU side really is getting stronger, if anything, as the weeks go by. But the weeks are going by, and there is a need for an intensification of these negotiations, particularly on the issues that are not resolved yet, like the backstop on the Irish border. And there's a real appetite within the EU task force to have that intensification happen sooner rather than later. We want to be in a position where EU leaders can be making real decisions in October. Some people seem to be suggesting that we can just move past the leaders' meeting in October and into November. That is not the view of the task force, and it's not the view of Ireland.
Irish Foreign Minister said, "I think the EU is willing to show flexibility. That's been clear." He said people have heard Michael Barnier talking about the need to de-dramatize the backstop and the language that's used in terms of ensuring that the backstop works, that it's legally operable. What we haven't got is any text from the British side in terms of their proposals to actually resolve the impasse that is there at the moment, said Coveney, adding that they don't need to see language published or anything like that. He said time was tight to have a treaty ratified in time for Britain's withdrawal in March, and that a Brussels summit on October 18 must be in a position to advance towards a deal.
The European Union is ready to improve its proposal to Britain for an insurance policy backstop arrangement on how to manage its Irish border after Brexit, the EU's chief negotiator Michael Barnier said on Tuesday.
Speaking to reporters after briefing EU ministers on his talks ahead of a summit of EU leaders in Salzburg on Wednesday and Thursday, Barnier said customs and regulatory checks on goods that might move from the British mainland to Northern Ireland could take place away from the border at the company premises or in the markets after Brexit to avoid border friction.
We are ready to improve this proposal. Work on the EU side is ongoing. We are clarifying which goods arriving in Northern Ireland from the rest of the UK would need to be checked and where, when, and by whom these checks could be performed. We can also clarify that most checks can take place away from the border, at the company premises or in the markets. We need to de-dramatize the checks.
Barnier also stressed that the backstop or arrangement to put in place in case of an absence of agreement over the Irish issue had to be legally operational.
What we need in the withdrawal agreement is a legally operational backstop which fully respects the territorial integrity of the UK. This backstop will only apply unless and until a better solution is found in the context of our future relationship.
Barnier said a summit in Brussels on October 18 would be a moment of truth for whether a deal was possible before Britain leaves the EU, deal or no deal, next March.
Now talking about Muharram al-Haram, authorities in the southern Iraqi city of Karbala tightened security in and around the holy Shiite city as Shiite pilgrims begin gathering for the religious event of Ashura.
Pilgrims wore black and beat their backs with steel chains to express their grief over the killing of Imam Hussein and his followers. Strict security measures were taken to prevent any disruption, with nearly 30,000 police officers deployed to the city, security officials said. Hundreds of thousands of Shiites travel to Karbala for Ashura each year to commemorate the death of Imam Hussein, one of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him's grandsons, who was buried there after he and his followers were massacred in the Battle of Karbala in 680.
Parts of Indian-held Kashmir were under curfew after clashes broke out between local residents and security personnel.
Since 1989, Muharram processions have been banned in Srinagar after a pro-independence revolt started in Kashmir. Only small morning rallies and processions are allowed in selected areas with limited Shiite populations. Local residents in capital Srinagar were taking out a religious procession when security personnel showed up and tried to dissuade them. A protest broke out.
They are allowing in Amarnath Yatras play their religious rituals here, and we are Kashmiris. Being in Kashmiri, my heart is crying that Allah Pakistan. My heart is crying that I want to cry. But this is the thing that they are allowing Amarnath Yatras to proceed their ritual rites here, but we are Kashmiris, they are not allowing us.
They allow Amarnath pilgrimage and rituals to take place here, but we as Kashmiris being in Kashmir are not allowed, said one of the protesters on security personnel not letting them carry out the procession.
More news stories lined up right after a short break. Keep watching 92 News. Welcome back. Talking about US President Donald Trump after the break. A bomb squad was called to the Maryland military base where US President Donald Trump was due to arrive after a woman drove to the entrance and claimed she had explosives inside her vehicle.
Members of the U.S. Air Force's Explosive Ordnance Disposal Team could be seen responding to the threat at the entrance gate to Joint Base Andrews. The team spent nearly an hour examining the vehicles using a rowboat and a team member wearing a blast suit before determining it a false threat, local media reported. A tow truck could be seen backing up to remove the suspected vehicle. Trump's presidential plane Air Force One is housed at the base and the president was due to arrive there within an hour.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and South Korean President Moon Jae-in said on Wednesday that they agreed to turn the Korean Peninsula into a land of peace without nuclear weapons and nuclear threats.
They said the North was also willing to close its main nuclear complex if the United States took reciprocal action. The pledges Kim and Moon made at their third summit this year could inject fresh momentum into the stalled nuclear negotiations between Washington and Pyongyang and lay the groundwork for another meeting Kim recently proposed to UK President Donald Trump. Kim said he would visit Seoul in the near future in what would be the first ever visit to the South's capital by a North Korean leader. Moon said the visit was expected to take place by the end of the year. The leaders of the two Koreas also announced a series of steps to deepen bilateral exchanges in the economy, culture and sports.
2 Palestinians were killed on Tuesday and 46 others were wounded in Israeli fire during a protest in the northern Gaza Strip near the Erez passengers crossing with Israel, the Palestinian Health Ministry said.
The Israeli military said it had no initial knowledge of any casualties or that there had been live fire, a spokeswoman said. Israel was marking on the Yom Kippur fast day from dusk on Tuesday, when very few officials are available for comment. Many youths burned tires and hurled stones at Israeli security forces, local residents said. A doctor at Gaza's Indonesian hospital said both men were hit by live ammunition, one in the chest and other in the back. In a separate incident in Al-Quds Old City, a Palestinian man was shot by Israeli police who said he tried to stab a Jewish worshipper near Damascus Gate outside the walled Old City on Yom Kippur, the holiest fast day in the Jewish calendar. A police spokesperson said the attacker had been neutralized. Police sealed off a street in which a body lay on the ground covered with a sheet. The spokesman said the assailant was a 26-year-old Palestinian from Kalandia in the Israeli-occupied West Bank and that his presence in Jerusalem was illegal due to an entry ban on Palestinians during the Jewish high holidays. Palestinian witnesses said they saw a young man fleeing, pursued by police who opened fire.
China's foreign ministry said Beijing will handle the situation calmly after U.S. President Donald Trump imposed new tariffs on $200 billion of Chinese goods, and China responded with levies on $60 billion worth of American goods.
Ministry spokesperson Geng Shuang said in a regular media briefing that Beijing will not succumb to US pressure to speed up the reform process and the opening up of the domestic economy. Both countries' tariffs come into force on September 24. When asked about Trump's tweet accusing China of trying to sway the US election, Geng said that China does not interfere in the internal affairs of other countries. Trump tweeted on Tuesday that China was actively trying to impact and change our election by attacking our farmers, ranchers and industrial workers because of their loyalty to me.
India on Wednesday prescribed arrest and jail terms for offenders in a campaign to stamp out instant Muslim divorce or triple talaq, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi looks to woo women voters of the South Asian nation's minority community.
The Supreme Court in August last year outlawed the practice that had allowed Muslim men to divorce their wives by simply saying the word talaq or divorce in Arabic 3 times. Wednesday's move comes months ahead of general election next year, at which Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party needs to broaden its support beyond its core Hindu base.
There was a compelling necessity to come with an ordinance. There was an overpowering urgency to come with an ordinance. दुनिया के 22 इस्लामिक मुल्कों में 3 तलाक को नियंत्रित किया गया है, लेकिन भारत ऐसे सेक्युलर मुल्क में बड़ी संख्या में हमारी खवातीन बेटियों बहनों के साथ नाइंसाफी हो रही थी.
The federal cabinet approved a decree making the procedure a punishable offence. As the government had struggled to pass the law in the face of opposition in parliament, even though the practice persists, Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad said the instance of triple talaq has continued unabated. Prasad told a news briefing, adding that the government had recorded 201 such divorces after the Supreme Court struck down the law.
What is important is that the instance of triple talaq continues unabated, in spite of the Supreme Court having annulled it, in spite of the passage of the bill by the Lok Sabha and the bill pending in the Rajya Sabha.
The ordinance allows for the couple to reach a settlement if the wife wishes, Prasad said. But how much jail time it prescribed was not immediately clear. The legislation stymied in Parliament sought to make the practice a non-bailable offence with up to 3 years in jail. Muslims constitute just 14% of the India's population of 1.3 billion, which is 80% Hindu, the latest census data shows. But critics say the BJP's Hindu nationalist agenda has polarized the groups.
Keep watching 92 News.